Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about All Quiet on the Western Front, an excellent film about war. And I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and dungeon mastering in context of war, and what lessons we take from war, what we learn from war as dungeon masters, and what we specifically can learn from the Germans' view of World War I. All right, so I generally really don't like war movies about, Hollywood war movies. And actually, All Quiet on the Western Front is actually not a Hollywood movie. It is a German movie that is being made about World War I and Germany's push into France, right? And generally, I don't like these kind of movies, just because Hollywood is so disrespectful of truth. And I think that, wars are so important, and what we learn from them is really important. But a good friend of mine suggested that I watch this, and then my son came along and said, and my son was there when my friend suggested it, and he was on it, and he's like, "Hey, I'm 49 minutes into All Quiet on the Western Front. You catch up, and we'll watch the end together." And I was like, "Oh, great," because my son, he's a Gen Z, right? Like he don't really watch scripted anything, right? So I was shocked he was even watching this. Like, he's either watching a YouTube video or he's watching an anime. Like, he really doesn't watch much in between, right? So so that's, it's definitely so when he said, "Hey, let's watch it," I'm like, all in. You got it, buddy. Let's watch this, right? So there's two things. So this was really fascinating. The one thing that I want to... So let's talk about this from a Dungeon Master's perspective. Okay, let's talk about two Dungeons & Dragons factions, right? The Harpers and the Emerald Enclave. When you read about them in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, generally these two organizations are fairly aligned, right? And they don't have much conflict, right? But one of the things that really shocked me when I watched All Quiet on the Western Front is you got this situation where this movie is about Germany pushing into France, right? Now, if I'm just thinking about Germany, I'm like, oh man, Germany, you guys are the villains of the world because you did this terrible thing in World War II, right? But this is before Germany was a bunch of world villains, right? Like, so this is before that happened, right? And so they hadn't committed that crime, right? And they're pushing into France. So it's Germany pushing into France. And I'm like, who am I rooting for here? And I was like, you know what? I think I'm rooting for the Germans, right? Now, why is that? France is all but an enemy to America today. Every time we talk to them or kind of like try to, make any kind of like plans together, they stick their nose up us and they're like, you guys are barbarians who don't have an NHS, and like, you don't believe in all our woke European values, and like, and Macron, like, just kind of, puts his nose in the air to everybody, and it's a mess. It's not cool, right? And so I really don't feel that France is an ally at all to us today. I really don't. I don't like the way they treat us. I think they treat us with disrespect, and it's not cool, right? Like, and so one of the things I wanted you to realize is, like, the Harpers and the Emerald Enclave might be friends today, but that might change real quick, right? Like, so just be aware. Factions are factions. Their relationship changes, right? So when I watch this movie about, Germany pressing into France, to penetrate right to the heart of it, to Paris, I'm like, go Germans, right? Like, because frankly, a pre-World War II Germany, that sounds pretty nice to me, right? France they've been horrible to America ever since Lafayette, helped us. I get it. That was really good. We ain't gotten an ounce of respect since then, and it's frustrating. I don't like it, right? Like, I do not like it. Second, this movie shows these German soldiers go into this horrible, blood-bathed trench fest, right? And what was really interesting was the movie was saying, okay, war is tough. You're going to die. You're going to kill, right? But you will witness shocking moments of beauty that others may never see the like of, right? There's this one scene where there was just this, it was like a ball of light, so the Germans are shooting over, are poking their heads over the trenches and shooting at the French people, right? And I'm rooting for the Germans at this point, because French people are no longer nice to us, right? And there's this phosphorus brilliant white ball that falls from the sky. And you're like, what is that? Is that a bomb? Is that a flare? Is it something supernatural? Like, it's, you know, what is that? But it is stunningly, shockingly beautiful, right? And so that's another message from All Quiet on the Western Front, is that, yes, war is difficult, and when you go into war, you're going to have an extremely difficult time, but there are going to be these moments of shocking beauty, right? Because you put yourself in a place that regular people don't, right? And what really excited me about this, right, is that's Dungeons and Dragons. It's the same thing. We put ourselves, first of all, we put ourselves into a second identity, right? And if you're a dungeon master, you put yourself into a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, all the way up to X100 identities. And then you stand, you know, on the harbor, looking out over Waterdeep, right? And you see these things that normal humans don't see. Like, you are in situations filled with magical creatures and mundane creatures, which at times can be magical, in just their variety and the excitement of the things they bring into the world. And this is the point of Dungeons & Dragons, to break us out of, can you imagine the sad sack lives of people who live without Dungeons & Dragons? What do they even do? Like, you know, go get manicures and talk to each other about the weather? Like, what are you even doing with your life, right? And this is the point. Dungeons & Dragons is very challenging, right? If you're trying to get physical people at a physical table at a specific time and keep them there for 1 to 2 hours, it is outrageously difficult. But you do it because you will witness things others will not. These moments of shocking beauty. Every single word of that is my opinion. What's really important is when I get to hear your opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Did you see All Quiet on the Western Fronts? What was your thoughts? What are lessons for a Dungeon Master that I may have missed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.